Hey folks, Mark Scroggins with Scroggins Law Group back for another edition of the Reclamation Transformation. And today I am very pleased to have a former client and someone who has become a friend, DeAndrea Robinson.
Hello, hello.
Hey, how are you doing
I'm
today?
great. How about yourself?
I am great. Thank you so much. And thanks for doing
Awesome.
this. I'm super excited about having DeAndrea here because man, when we got together on your matter, you had a shit ton of life happening. And
Yes.
so, not to mention all the different hats you wear, aside from being a normal employee, so to speak,
Right.
the number of different businesses you have, and
Yes.
all of that, and all of the life issues that you have overcome. I've been blessed enough to be able to sit there and watch some of it happen over the past few years.
Right.
But it's crazy to me, because we had a little discussion beforehand about, God doesn't give us more than what we can handle.
Correct.
Although sometimes I get to the point where I'm thinking, I'm hitting the breaking point, so I'm not really sure how much more I've got or how much you think I've got,
Yeah.
but it's getting tight
Yeah.
there.
Just want to lay down.
Yeah,
Take a
exactly.
break.
So, um, one of the things I wanted to start with is all the different hats that you are wearing. And so the people can get to know you
Right.
a little bit and the different businesses that you're involved in and learn a little bit about you.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, where do I start? Let's see. I'm a project manager for the healthcare companies.
Hmm.
I have my CSM, which is a certified scrum master. I have my POPM, which is a product owner, product manager. I have real estate that I've invested in Georgia. I have a real estate company or realty company. I have to be very careful about how I phrase it.
Right.
Right now, we're working on corporate leasing. My hair salon is another one. I stopped for a while, definitely to give my children more time, but then turned back around, partnered up with somebody, and so now we're working on building the brand over off of Preston and the toll road, the George Bush Turnpike.
Hmm.
So there's that, and then of course a lot of people come to me and ask me for how do I start my business? How do I do this? How do I do that? So I think I might add business consultation to that as well,
No doubt.
and just a lot of opportunities just coming my way right now, and just kind of connecting people so that they can get their projects off the ground. And with having that project management background, definitely write up a project plan, which turns into a full blown business plan when it's all said and done. So yeah.
Man, well, if anybody's going to have that, good karma out there and karma coming back around,
I
it
hope
should be
so.
you.
I hope so. I pray for it. I
Yeah.
pray for it.
Well, where I wanted to start was really talking a little bit about our relationship and so how we met. And so, if you don't mind telling the folks how
Oh,
we met,
okay.
and then I'll just ask you a couple of things.
So let's see. We obviously met. My husband passed away in a car accident randomly, and I, he had two children when we first got married. I had my daughter. His two when we got married were 1 and 2, and when he passed away, they happened to be at their aunt's house that weekend, and she decided to try to hold on to them a little bit longer than what she should have, and she finally brought them home when we had the funeral. She asked to, kind of get them away from all that was going on, and she would bring them back home, and then decided not to bring them back home.
Oh,
And that was right after we buried him. So
and to be clear, that was not Archie was your husband,
Archie was my husband,
and
correct?
not his sister,
No,
but the mother to his children's aunt.
correct. And of course, their mother passed away from
Right.
breast cancer 2 years prior to him
Right.
passing away.
Right.
So it was a bit
Sad
much.
story.
Yeah, it was a bit much. So yeah, she decided to not bring them back home and to file for full custody of my babies that have been with me at that time for 2 years. So that wasn't going to work.
Right.
So my immediate response was to find an attorney to file the paperwork. And then I got one attorney, and then I was like, no, I need the best of the best. These are my children. So I started doing research. Came across your name. I researched you on Google, looked at your reviews, researched you on Super Lawyer, looked there, looked at LinkedIn, looked there, and then went to Colleton County Records and pulled your information from there as well. And I need to see how many wins you had. And then I called you.
Well, and how? Let me ask you. How'd things work out?
You
And
mean
we'll just leave it at that. So,
right?
yeah,
Huh?
that was a positive laugh, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, so one of the questions I get, because we're not. Well, I've discussed with you the reason that I created Scroggins Law Group was really to create a concierge practice that's
Right.
practicing really high end, high conflict
Right.
divorce. If everybody's holding hand and singing "Kumbaya," you don't need us. It's
Correct.
throwing good money after bad to do that. But if you've got something that is, bet the business, so to speak,
Right.
or your kids are at stake, which is what bet the business is to me in
Right.
a family law proceeding, then you need to hire appropriately. So, how do you know a divorce lawyer is good when you're making that decision who to hire?
So, definitely the reviews on Google.
Hmm.
I seen those. I said, okay. Then Super Lawyer, you came up, and I seen that. I said, okay. LinkedIn, and then I started counting your wins in these cases, and I said, okay. And then I have a really good friend who's also an attorney, and I ran your name past her, and she was like, phenomenal lawyer. Phenomenal? Okay, that's who I'm going with. So once she co-signed you, it was over after that. And then I walked in your office and seen like the super lawyer of the year and all your top lawyers for the year, and I was like, I'm in the right place. I'm in the
Right.
right place. So yeah,
Thank you. I'm really glad things went so
absolutely.
well, and but more importantly, the manner in which you have come out of this,
Hmm.
because when I told you that I'd rebranded our podcast here and wanted to, and calling it the Reclamation Transformation, that's something that's really near and dear to my heart because
Mm-hmm.
it's all about a spiritual journey for me. So, for me, that is in the world of recovery. All
Right.
right. And so it was super important for me to find that spiritual connection and be able to
Absolutely.
maintain it to keep from just losing my shit, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean physically, although that would have happened too, but mentally and everything. And so that spiritual connection is so important to me. And I know you, and I know
Absolutely.
your story. And good Lord, man, you have had a ton of crap heaped upon you. But the way that you have just, it makes me think of the story of the phoenix, just rising from the ashes and what you have done. So I want to
I'll
get into
take
that a
that.
little bit.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, it's every time we talk,
Mm-hmm.
which might go a few months,
Yeah.
but you've always got something else that's going on, and you always have a positive outlook. And so, when we got a chance to talk about, what's your spiritual life look like,
Yeah.
or religion, or whatever you were into, what do you rely on? What has been able to work for you, and has it been, something that has evolved over time?
So, when I first started going through everything,
Yeah.
I was meditating for like 2 or 3 hours straight. I for a very long time I just meditated for 2 and 3 hours.
Wow.
And then I got a therapist and she was like, whoa, that's way too long. You're almost sleeping in your meditation. And so I was like, okay. So then I started writing,
Hmm.
started working out like crazy.
Right.
And when I say like crazy, I mean 2 a days
Yeah.
just to get the energy off. Boxing was another thing. I
Hmm.
was beating the hell out of a boxing
I
bag,
bet.
um, like almost demolishing it.
Right.
But now it's more or less I'm up at like 4 o'clock in the morning.
Hmm.
I literally lay there and meditate for 30 minutes. I write to myself first thing in the morning.
Yep.
I work out and then I immediately get online. Right now I'm studying e-commerce so I can
Hmm.
show my girls how to do e-commerce at their age, right?
Right.
And that's what I do right now. I work, I go straight into working, but I also make time for them. I get up, I get them ready. I make ginger shots for them in the morning. I keep our bodies right because this stuff that's floating around is no good, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so just eating right and staying focused, definitely researching on how to make sure I stay out of a depression because that can happen,
Yeah.
right?
Easily.
There were days where I just didn't want to get out of bed. It was just like, ugh,
Right.
I don't want to do this anymore. But literally, it's been meditating, making sure I make time for myself, working out, eating right. I'm not a big pill fan. Yes, I work for the healthcare companies, but I'm not a pill fan.
I get it.
So I have to eat right. I have to work out. So I bring my dopamine up naturally.
Right.
And then just definitely spending time with my girls. You know, I get a kick out of telling the truth about everything. And they're like, what? Oh my God. So I definitely feed off of them and feed into them, you know?
Right.
But I had to find solace in what mattered.
So one of the things that's very interesting to me when you talk about, meditation and writing to yourself. So the one thing I've always struggled with um, is being able to maintain a spiritual connection. So I run into problems when I have a tendency to start intellectualizing God. And I'm smart enough to know the number of translations that have happened to get to, let's say, just one version, the St. James Bible or the
Right.
NIV Bible in English. Okay. It wasn't written in
It
English
was
to
not.
start with,
Uh-uh.
so all the different transformations. So I can start to intellectualize everything. And when left to my own devices, where my mind goes is, this is bullshit. Okay. Now, what finally worked for me was a process called two-way prayer. And so anybody who's interested out there, twowayprayer.org.
Twowayprayer.org. Okay.
Okay. So there were, at the turn of the century, there were what were known as the Oxford groups. Okay.
Okay.
And the person who created the Oxford groups, it basically stemmed out of organized religion, but it was attempts for people to get sober. Okay.
Okay.
And so one of the things that began to be utilized was what was called two-way prayer. And in that process, it's a writing exercise.
Okay.
Okay, so I have a problem with meditation because I have squirrel moment after squirrel moment after squirrel moment, and I'm not good at being still or quiet.
Right.
And so this has a tendency to quiet me. And so you start out by reading something spiritual that gets you in the right state of mind, being in a
Okay.
special place. You do this in the same place every day, unless, of course, you're on vacation or whatever. And you're writing, asking God for direction on something. So it
Okay.
might be something about if I've got an issue with a parent, or if I've got an issue in work with an employee, or how do I do this for a client, or something like that, where there is a challenge to me and it is weighing on me.
Okay.
And it's writing this down and then getting quiet and waiting for the inspiration to start writing again. And then I just write
Okay.
until whatever I am hearing ends. Okay.
Okay.
And so I learned about this through a seminar that was put on about 6 years ago that I went to, and it's led by a guy who's an Episcopalian priest, who's been sober for 40 years.
Wow.
And he got into it because at 20 years of sobriety, he was like, I'm about to start drinking again because I cannot maintain a spiritual connection, even being a priest, right? And so this was shared with me. I went to this seminar, and since then, my spiritual life has been different.
Okay.
So, but that was a way for me to pray and meditate
At the same time.
without having squirrel moments
Huh.
as much. Okay, I'm not going to say they completely disappeared because that might be asking a bit much.
Right.
But it has made it a whole lot better, and it's allowed me to maintain that connection. So
Okay.
even though it felt incredibly weird, stupid, like total bullshit when I began it,
Uh-huh.
so when he was doing this seminar, and he's like, you just write down whatever comes to your mind, no matter how ridiculous. And so
Okay.
we get done at the end, and he's like, so what came to you? And I, of course, raised my hand. I'm like, the first thing is, what comes to my mind is this is bullshit. And he said, that's good. That's good.
Right.
Because, the ego is loud and powerful when it is dying. And so it's that struggle. So anyway, anytime I hear somebody talking about that they meditate for any period of time
Right.
and it's not doing anything beyond just being able to meditate and
Uh-huh.
they can do that, I am amazed because I am a novice. I cannot, I just don't seem to be able to
You
get
know
there.
what? I had so much going on inside of me
Right.
that I was just trying to determine what emotion I was feeling.
Yeah.
So to just lay there and go, what am I feeling? And that was literally what was going through my mind for those hours. What am I feeling? What am I feeling? What am I feeling? Do I
Right.
feel mad? No, I'm not mad. Am I happy? I was literally going through emotions in those hours that I would meditate like that.
Right.
And I was numb for years.
Right.
So 2, 3 hours is a long time to meditate. Tend to fall asleep sometimes. You get a little comfortable on a hardwood floor.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So, you know, now if you ask me to meditate that long,
Mm-hmm.
I can't do it.
Right.
Which sounds really crazy because I'm like, oh, I gotta go do this. I gotta do this. I gotta do this. I start doing this checklist in my head, and I have to
Right.
literally bring myself back present and just focus in on my breathing again.
So I'm glad you mentioned being present because
Mm-hmm.
I think that is something that, you know what, I'm not going to speak about anybody else. For me, that is
Uh-huh.
very difficult.
Okay.
So, you know, it's like you can start tripping about things that have happened in the past, and you start
Mm-hmm.
having that conversation. Oh God, and he or she said this, and then I should have said,
Mm-hmm.
but I actually said, and you know,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm thinking about all this bullshit in the past, or then I'm thinking about something else that's gonna, you know, that might happen in the future.
Yeah.
You don't know what the hell's going to happen in the future,
No.
you know, and the only time, the absolute worst thing that has ever happened to me has only happened between my ears. You know, it has never actually happened, you
I
know.
I go through that. I think that happens though when you do have a lifestyle where you're doing so much.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to predict the next move and the outcome of that move to make sure it's the right thing.
Right.
And so I do that.
Right.
And I have to remind myself, dude, just remove all expectations. And that's the one thing that I have literally worked diligently on. This has been my thing for like the past 6 months. Just remove expectations from people's, from outcome. Just remove it. If the goal is to make $1 million, that's the only, I'm going to make $1 million. That's the only thing I know. I don't know how I'm going to get there,
Right.
but I'm going to make that $1 million, right?
Right.
So I just remove all expectations now, and I stay present in what it is and that I'm working on at that moment. It's hard though, very hard.
I'm glad you said that because for me, it can get challenging. The interesting thing, though, for me, is the amount of relief that it brings when you can really be present in the moment and just enjoy what's going on right then. So, like, I'm enjoying being able to talk to my friend in this scenario too.
Right now, yeah.
I'm not thinking about, holy shit, I got to be in court tomorrow and I got to do this and I got to do that and I got to do the other.
Right.
You know, because then I'm starting to freak out and future trip about something that
Hasn't
it
transpired.
will all be fine. Do what you know to do right here and right now
Yeah.
and enjoy that moment.
Absolutely. I think I'm probably most present. This is gonna sound crazy. I love going down to Miami, and I get on the yacht, and I literally just lay there and sail on the water. That's it. I would spend 4 hours to sail on the water and just lay there.
So I understand that because I've been scuba diving since I was 17. So let's just say that's been a little bit.
Yeah.
And so that is the time that I am at the most peace is when I am underwater and you've got, you know, rhythmic breathing.
Yep.
And, you know, it sounds a little bit like Darth Vader.
Yeah.
You know, when you're sitting
But-
there breathing. But, you know,
Yeah.
enjoying the beauty that's underwater that so few have really
Yeah.
got to experience. And,
Absolutely.
you know, so that's when I am totally at peace. So I understand
I
what you're talking about.
love the
there.
water.
Yeah.
Like love the water. That is it for me.
Yeah.
So, but when I'm here in the hustle and bustle,
Yeah.
oh, I have to fight for that, which is why I get up so early in the morning. It is dead quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Dead quiet. I hear birds, birds starting to chirp. It's still dark outside. It's just peaceful.
Right.
And my children aren't up yet. They're not
Right.
knocking at the door yet. So that is the best time to do it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let me go. I'm going to go back around to talking a little bit about a spiritual connection
Okay.
on there because, you know, we were having this conversation before, and I heard you make the comment that, you know, God takes care of the widows.
Yes.
So I'm going to gather that this spiritual connection is not just secular in nature, but it
Uh-uh.
also is very spiritual or religious, depending on what, how people view it. Would
All
that
right.
be
So I am spiritual. I am not religious. I
right?
am not the person who gets up every morning. I'm not going to Bible thump you either.
Right.
I'm not going to do any of that. But I do have morals. I do have integrity, and I do have I believe in a spiritual alignment.
Yeah,
Like I see you have what tiger's eye on your wrist.
I do.
I have a ton of bracelets at home,
Hmm.
tiger's eye, amethyst, all that. So I say it's a spiritual connection for that
Yep.
reason. I've done my research behind every last one of those stones. I I have to believe in something.
Yes.
I have to believe in something.
Right.
And if you don't believe in anything else, for me, I can believe in God.
Yes.
And my dad's a pastor.
Right.
That's the funny part. So my dad's a pastor,
I get
and
it.
he's like, "You need to go to church on Sundays." Right, from my bed. It's online.
Hmm.
So, he's like, "No, you need to get up and go." Yeah, no. I don't like people. I like God. I don't like people. So
I get it.
so I do that, but I found so much solace in that, especially after Archie dying.
Yeah.
He used to tell me all the time, "Babe, just show love, just show love. God will take care of you. God will take care of you." And so that's what I've done.
Yeah.
I do read my Bible. I can refer back to it, but it's also like, okay, great. Now, how does this translate to my life now?
Right.
How do
Right.
I apply this now? So yeah, I believe that God does take care of the widows. You can't wrong people and think it's not going to come back. So whether you
Right.
call it God is going to get you, karma, whatever your spiritual belief is,
Right.
it's going to happen. So I do have a spiritual connection. I
Yeah.
definitely make it a point to spend that time.
Yeah.
And biblically it states that God is in each and every one of us. So who better to spend time within yourself?
Well, and I completely agree. It's,
Yeah.
one of the things that always impressed me about my ex-wife was she always had this childlike belief in God. It was something that she never had to question.
Hmm.
It was just always there. It was stable. And I was amazed because that was not my story, and
Mhm.
so today, my understanding of God is different. It's really a God of
Mhm.
my understanding and what works
Mhm.
for me. The difference is that I don't have any desire to try to shove my understanding or my
Mm-mm.
belief system down your throat.
Nope.
um, Nor do I, for others who want to try to do that, that are like, okay, well, my religion says that if you don't believe this, then it's like, okay, well, if that works for you, that's great. That's different than my belief set, but I don't really care one
I
way or
take a
another on
little bit
that.
from each religion,
Hmm.
right? Because the principles are all the same,
Yep.
right? Treat people the way you want to be treated, do unto others as you want done unto you. So I feel like if you just follow those things, you should do pretty well in life. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um, and definitely, if you're pointing the finger at somebody, you might need to look at yourself.
Right.
Take the time to self-reflect. Please do.
Yeah.
Please. So that's kind of where I'm at in life. I have a spiritual connection, but I don't claim one religion over the other. My dad would probably lose his head if he heard me say that, but I just don't. I just don't. I know that for me, God is real, and that's just what it is.
Right. I get it. That's it's it's interesting. My dad passed away the day after Christmas in 2000, but there's still things that I remember. So he was a CPA and had been a chief financial officer for a lot of different
Uh-huh.
companies, and so I was first in the family that was going to be a lawyer, which of
Right.
course he thought was absolutely the most horrific thing ever.
Really?
Well, because his experience was with corporate lawyers, all right, and
Mm.
corporate lawyers, he's like, they want to screw up a perfectly good idea with the but fors and their thous and all this kind of stuff, which I understand.
Uh-huh.
But I remember when I was in college and I would come back, and so I would be going to church with the family, and it was always collection plates going around, and Dad would always don't forget to buy God a beer, and so I'm pulling out what was $3 at that time,
Mm-hmm.
which is vastly different now going out somewhere, but
Mm-hmm.
he was another one that had was steeped in the tradition of the Episcopalian Church, and
Mm-hmm.
almost became a priest, and so very interesting to that is a place that the apple didn't even fall in the same state as the tree. Um, but it's interesting how things come full circle, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I am much more connected now spiritually than I ever was previously,
Growing up, yeah.
and I've got tons of friends who are in church every Sunday, and I think that's great if that's what works for you. It just doesn't.
I'm
That's
not
just
built
not my
like
deal.
that. I'm
Yeah.
I'm definitely not built like that. Um, I I believe that you do have to have something fed into you, right? There
Right.
has to be the right message fed into you. You have to connect with that message.
Right.
So I might go on YouTube and look for a sermon from a different church or a different pastor or something of the sort.
Right.
Sometimes it can be a completely different religion. Just
Absolutely.
because just because I feel like you can learn something from each religion, right?
Right.
Like for me personally, yeah, I understand the whole concept of Christianity, but I love again that foundation of do unto others as you want done to you. But I love the discipline of the Muslims. They are that I've never seen a discipline so to get out in the middle of a street during prayer hour and put your carpet down and pray exactly where you're at. That's a
Right.
level of discipline that I think we all can use at times to make sure that we get to where we need to get to.
Right.
You know, um, just and then other religions where they don't eat any meat, their body is wholly the temple.
Mm-hmm.
That's something else that you could take from. So I am definitely a spiritual person. Please don't talk to me about religion and don't browbeat me with your religion either,
Yeah.
because you're gonna be sadly and disappointed when I tell you if you don't get out of my face, you're gonna see this whole you're gonna see a whole other religion come about here. so
I totally get it.
so
So,
yeah.
so what is next for you on the horizon?
So, apparently I'm going to Austin this weekend for South by Southwest. I got
Nice.
roped into something there.
Right.
I'm helping my cousin with her gym. I got her a grant writer. We're supposed to meet next week to help her get that up and going. And the doors open by the beginning of the year. For myself, I don't know. I want to buy more property. I've been looking at multi units. So I definitely want to buy
Aha.
more property.
Yep.
My dad is out in Arizona. He's very, very adamant about wanting to open up something out there. He was talking about like a little lounge area in the Coolidge, Arizona area.
Mm-hmm.
The law firm that he works for, the lady there does all the liquor licensing. And he's talking to me about it. And I was like, you want a restaurant? And he was just like, no, a lounge. A restaurant is what you're, do you know that's minimum 100,000? He's like, well, we can, you want a restaurant? I don't know about a
Right.
restaurant. I don't know about that. That's a little risky. So just definitely more property though. I set up my trust, so we closed on our house this week, and everything after that, just acquiring a bunch of assets so that my children don't start where I started. Teaching them e-commerce. They know the difference between an asset and a liability now. They can tell you what that is. They all know what they want to sell from an e-commerce perspective. So I told them, you're going to pay your own way through college, and it's going to be fun. So that's where I'm at now, just educating them and passing down that information to them at this point so that I can retire at 45. I have less than 10 years, so I can retire at 45 and just be very comfortable and my assets work for me
There you go.
and spend more time on the water.
I love that. It's funny,
Yeah.
yeah, because we were talking about that. What does retiring, look like? And I have a hard time seeing myself ever completely walk away. I don't know that it would work for me.
I don't think you will ever just walk away. I think you'll always want to have that pen and pad somewhere to care about that last case that went on in the courtroom.
Right.
For me as well, I don't know if I'll ever just be able to just sit around and not do anything at all.
Of course, yeah.
But to have the luxury to move about the way that I want to and not be like ball and chain to a desk or a computer or my phone. Like, yeah, I want that. It's
Well,
coming.
if anybody deserves it, you do.
Oh, I
And
appreciate
and
that.
I remember where you were just a few years back on some real estate, and to see what's going on with you today. Damn,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I'm excited.
So yeah, you should be. So
I'm
I'm
excited.
excited about you going to South by Southwest. I can't believe with as much time as I spend in Austin, and that's not one thing that
That
I've done.
that was such a random phone call I got 2 nights ago. It was like, hey, we're coming there. We're going to South by Southwest, and can you connect us with somebody in Dallas? And I was like, yeah, I'll connect you with somebody in Dallas. So I do that.
Right.
And I'm just like, I said, I'm going to connect you guys and then you guys can talk and I don't need to be involved. He's like hell, you right in the middle of this shit. Let's go. You're going to South by Southwest. Well, are you paying? You're driving too? Okay, yeah, let's go. We'll do it. I'll go then. I'll go. So.
See? Karma.
Yeah.
It is, maybe Carmen will be there too. Who knows?
Hey, who knows?
So, but I mean, that's just kind of the thing that I'm talking about. You know, you put out good energy.
Yeah.
You get things that are back. You
Random.
help, you know, you allow yourself to be selfless at times.
Yeah.
And the payback is phenomenal.
It is. It is. It's been a blessing. You know, God has been a blessing. There were so many times when I was like, oh my God, I can't do this. I just want to pull the covers over my head and just lay in bed for 6 days. And my little people are like, yeah, mommy, we're hungry.
Right.
Like, damn. All right, let me try again later when you're not here. But I'm glad I kept going.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, just keep going and keep pushing. And you stay focused. You need an alignment. Like you just see no more purple squirrels. You need like that little folder on either the blinders like the horses have.
I do.
And just stay focused.
I do. That's the so that's why there are so many other lawyers and paralegals and staff around here today, because it's like herding cats, keeping me going in the right direction.
Yeah, you need horse blinders, man. Just keep you going. But I'm guilty of it too, so I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. I do.
Well, thank you for joining me
Absolutely.
here today. Really appreciate it. And thank y'all for joining us for another episode of the Reclamation Transformation with my good friend DeAndrea Robinson.
Thanks, sir.
So remember, the change begins with you. So remember to leave your mark.